This used to be nothing but an empty, uneven patio, just sunlight, cracks, and a dream I kept putting off for 2 years. Every morning, I'd sit here with a cup of coffee and imagine what this space could become. A place to cook, to rest, to gather with friends. But I always thought I needed more money, more tools, more time. Until one day, I realized I didn't need perfect conditions. I just needed to start. So, I picked up what I already had, a few old planks, some leftover tiles, and a handful of patience. I wasn't confident, but I was curious. And that's how every transformation begins, not with perfection, but with courage. Today, I'm taking you on that journey, from an empty patio to my dream outdoor kitchen, built by hand, piece by piece, with heart instead of hardware. If you've ever looked at your own small space and thought, it's too small to matter, stay with me. Because sometimes, the smallest corners can become the most meaningful places in your home. Welcome to Dream Room, where we turn simple spaces into soulful stories of creativity, calm, and transformation. Part 1, from sketch to soul. Every great space begins as a simple line on paper, a vision waiting to breathe. Before I touch a single tool, I start with sketches, not to chase perfection, but to feel the rhythm of the place. I draw, erase, and dream until the layout feels alive, where sunlight, furniture, and movement all speak the same gentle language of home. When I start sketching, I don't worry about straight lines or fancy tools, just a pencil, a notebook, and a quiet moment to imagine how I want the space to feel. For me, this is where design becomes emotional. It's not about dimensions yet, it's about energy flow, how you'll walk through the space, where light will fall in the morning, and which corner will hold your favorite plant or a cup of coffee. If you're working with a small patio, bedroom, or home office, this step matters even more. A rough outline helps you sense balance before you buy or build anything. Try using chalk to draw shapes directly on your floor or wall. It helps you see proportions in real life. Think of it like a dance between creativity and calm, your first conversation with the room you're about to create. And remember, it doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to feel right. Part 2, lessons from the waiting years. Sometimes, the most beautiful transformations don't start with action. They start with patience. I spent 2 years living with a plain, uneven patio. Nothing but a lonely chair and a small dream of what could be. At first, I felt frustrated, wishing I could make it perfect right away. But those quiet years taught me something I'd never learned from any design book. Spaces grow just like people do, slowly, season by season. When you live with a room for a while, you begin to understand its rhythm, where the morning light lingers, where shadows soften in the evening, where you feel most at peace. Those details can't be rushed. So if your home still feels unfinished, don't see it as failure. See it as a conversation in progress. I used to sit outside, notebook in hand, sketching ideas and watching how the wind played with the leaves. Over time, I realized that good design doesn't come from buying everything at once. It comes from listening. Listening to your needs, your habits, your budget, and the whispers of the space itself. So if you're still in your waiting years, take heart. Every pause is preparation. Every delay is design in disguise. Part 3, designing for courage, not perfection. When I finally decided to start building, I wasn't confident, I was terrified. I had never built a full outdoor station before, and every thought that crossed my mind began with, what if I fail? But I realized something important. Design isn't about knowing everything. It's about being brave enough to begin. Courage, not perfection, is the real foundation of any beautiful space. If you've ever hesitated to decorate your room, rearrange your furniture, or paint that old cabinet, you know this feeling. The fear of making it worse can stop you from even trying. But here's what I've learned. Every imperfect project teaches you something new about your creativity and patience. The first attempt might be messy, but it's yours, and that's what gives it life. So when I picked up my first piece of wood, my hands were shaking, but my vision was steady. Each cut, each screw, each tiny misstep became a lesson in trust. Trusting that I could figure things out as I went, and trusting that even if I made mistakes, the space would still carry my heart in it. Because real beauty doesn't come from flawlessness. It comes from the courage to create despite the fear. Part 4, choosing natural companions, materials that breathe. When it was finally time to gather materials, I knew one thing for sure. I wanted this space to breathe, to feel like it belonged to the earth, not just built on top of it. That meant choosing natural companions. Wood with its imperfect grains, clay tiles that held the warmth of the sun, stones that had already lived 1,000 years outside. These materials carry stories. They age gracefully, they heal with time, and they never pretend to be something they're not. If you're working on your own home, maybe a small bedroom, a cozy workspace, or a balcony garden, try using what's already around you. Reuse old boards for shelves, save glass jars for storage, or turn fallen branches into light holders. Natural materials don't just look beautiful, they change how you feel in a room. When your hands touch real textures, you connect with something ancient and grounding. A handmade table, a wall of bamboo slats, or even a patch of raw linen brings calm that modern finishes can't imitate. It's not about trends, it's about truth, creating spaces that remind us we belong to nature, not the other way around. Part 5: Crafting the Frame. Strength meets intention. Once I had gathered all the materials, it was time to start building the frame, the quiet backbone of every project. This stage isn't glamorous, but it's where purpose meets structure. Each piece of wood, every bracket, every line of adhesive carries intention. I measured, adjusted, and sometimes redid the same joint 3 times. Not because I wanted perfection, but because I wanted it to feel solid, like a promise that would last through time and weather. And yes, mistakes happened, a few cuts too short, a misaligned edge here and there, but those tiny errors became lessons in patience. If you've ever assembled furniture or rearranged your home office, you know this feeling. The mix of frustration and pride when something finally fits just right. That moment teaches you something no instruction manual ever could: how to listen to materials. I realized the frame isn't just physical support, it's emotional grounding too. Just as we need a sense of balance and direction in life, our spaces need it too. So every screw I turned reminded me: build slow, build steady, and let your intentions guide your hands. Part 6: The Beauty of Imperfection. Halfway through building, I made what felt like a disaster. I cut the wrong set of legs for the frame. One was shorter, one slightly crooked, and for a moment I just stood there, staring at the mistake. But then I laughed. Because that's the thing about creation. It humbles you. It reminds you that perfection is an illusion, and beauty often hides in the places we least expect. I decided not to throw those pieces away. Instead, I used them differently. They became the support for the lower shelf. And you know what? It worked perfectly. Sometimes, the things we think are broken simply need a new purpose. That lesson stayed with me long after the sawdust settled. If you've ever painted a wall unevenly or placed furniture slightly off-center, don't rush to fix it. Step back. Look at how the light hits it. Maybe it's not wrong, maybe it's real. That's what gives a home its soul. The little misalignments, the scratches, the handmade edges, they're proof of human hands, proof of courage. In a world obsessed with flawless design, imperfection is what makes your space truly yours. Part 7: The Color of Home. When the frame finally stood tall, the next question was, what colors would tell this story best? I didn't want something that just looked good on camera. I wanted hues that felt like home. I tested shades of white, beige, and soft clay tones against the walls, holding them under sunlight and candlelight. It's amazing how one color can shift with mood. Creamy white felt peaceful in the morning, but golden and warm at dusk. Choosing colors is like choosing emotions. Light shades create space, darker ones anchor energy. If you're designing a small room or a cozy corner, always let the natural light guide your palette. Hold up your paint samples beside plants, wood, or even your favorite coffee mug. Nature never mismatches. In the end, I paired a warm ivory with deep, honey-colored wood, a balance of calm and strength. Every brushstroke felt like sealing a promise between the home and the heart. Because color isn't decoration, it's language. It speaks to your mood, your memories, your rhythm of life. And when chosen with love, it turns any space, no matter how small, into a quiet reflection of who you are. Part 8: The Tiled Dream. Then came the part I'd been dreaming about, the tiles. Those small, cool pieces that would turn my plain countertop into something alive. I remember laying them out across the table, rearranging the patterns like puzzle pieces, trying to find a rhythm that felt right. Each tile carried its own personality, some perfectly square, others chipped or uneven, each one whispering a different kind of beauty. This process wasn't just about design, it was about mindfulness. The repetition, the focus, the sound of adhesive spreading, it all slowed my thoughts down. If you've ever decorated with mosaic pieces, broken ceramics, or even handmade art, you know that quiet satisfaction of watching something imperfect form a perfect whole. For anyone decorating their home, try adding a bit of tile. even just a strip behind your sink, a corner of your desk, or a plant stand top. It brings texture, character, and a sense of earth. My tiles reminded me that beauty isn't about matching patterns. It's about creating harmony out of difference. And when you stand back at the end, seeing how it all fits together, you realize the process itself was the art. Part 9, learning through hands and heart. When the tiling was finally done, I stood there, exhausted, covered in dust, and yet smiling like a kid who just built their first treehouse. Every sore muscle felt like proof that I'd done something real. My partner, Pat, looked at the project and said, "You're too hard on yourself. Most people wouldn't even try this." And that moment stayed with me, because it reminded me that creativity isn't measured by perfection, it's measured by courage. Every nail, every uneven tile, every late-night fix taught me something, not just about design, but about myself. I learned patience, problem-solving, and the quiet joy of turning mistakes into meaning. For anyone decorating or crafting their own home, that's the true reward, realizing that the act of creating builds you as much as it builds the space. So don't wait to feel ready. Start small, repaint a nightstand, move a lamp, hang that shelf you've been avoiding. With each tiny act, your confidence grows. Because the most beautiful homes aren't made by professionals. They're made by hearts willing to learn, one brushstroke, one idea, one brave attempt at a time. Part 10, the grout lesson. The hardest easy thing. When I reached the grouting stage, I thought, finally, the easy part. But within minutes, I realized how wrong I was. The mixture dried too fast, the texture felt unpredictable, and suddenly, my arms were covered in gray dust. Yet, somewhere between frustration and laughter, I found rhythm. The slow, circular motions of wiping grout between the tiles became strangely calming, like meditation through motion. Design, much like life, is full of moments that test your patience just when you think you're done. That's when growth quietly happens. Every stubborn patch of grout reminded me that the finishing touches matter just as much as the first step. The effort we put into those unseen details, the smoothing, the cleaning, the waiting, is what transforms a project into something we're proud of. If you've ever organized your desk or redecorated a room, you know that satisfaction when everything finally comes together. It's not about the shine, it's about the effort it took to make it shine. And when I stepped back that evening, tired but fulfilled, I realized it wasn't just grout holding those tiles together, it was patience. Part 11, the finishing touches at last. The final details began to take shape. The soft click of magnets on the cabinet doors, the smooth turn of new knobs, the warm reflection of the paint under sunlight. These small moments felt like quiet applause after a long journey. Each screw tightened, each brush cleaned, was a reminder of how far the project, and I, had come. Finishing touches are where personality truly shines. Maybe it's the ceramic handle that reminds you of a market trip, or the hand-woven mat under your feet that adds comfort to the chaos. For me, I added a small herb rack beside the grill, mint, thyme, and rosemary, their scent turning every meal into a small ritual. If you're decorating your own space, this is the part where you add you. The little objects that tell your story, a stone from your travels, a plant you've nurtured for months, or even a lamp that glows just the way you like. These details turn a structure into a sanctuary. And as I looked at my finished outdoor kitchen, I realized the true reward wasn't in the building, but in the becoming. Under the evening light, gratitude, growth, and new beginnings. As the sun dipped low and the last golden light touched the tiles, I finally stepped back to see what had come to life. My dream outdoor kitchen wasn't just a project. It was a reflection of patience, courage, and the quiet magic of doing things with your own hands. The wood carried the warmth of summer days. The tiles held memories of late nights and laughter. It reminded me that every space we create tells a story, not just of design, but of who we are becoming. Maybe your story begins with a small shelf, a plant corner, or a handmade desk in your home office. Whatever it is, trust the process. Let your creativity flow in slow, honest steps, and let imperfection be part of your beauty. I'd love to hear from you. What are you building, dreaming, or redesigning right now? Share your ideas and stories in the comments below. I read every one of them. And if today's journey inspired you to see your space differently, make sure to subscribe to Dream Room, where we turn small corners into soulful places to live, work, and dream. Your next transformation might start right here.